First, I'd like to say thank you to my honourable friend, the member for Sunderland Central, for putting forward this important debate on behalf of the Petitions Committee today. He made some very powerful points in his speech, and I look forward to hearing the Minister's response to those. I may also associate myself with the remarks made by my honourable friend, the member for Darlington, who spoke so eloquently, and also my honourable neighbour, the member for Cheltenham. Mr. Speaker, apologies, I've given you promotion, Mr. Twigg. Mr. Twigg, it's only right to start my remarks proper by paying tribute to Ellen and all of the families who bereaved families for online safety who are here today, who've raised this petition, in particular following the heartbreaking loss of your son, Jules. It is an unbelievably courageous thing to do, to turn away from the abyss of pain and grief and to turn that into something where you're campaigning for good. And it's quite frankly inspirational to many members in this House. Yeah. I'd also like to thank the 1,711 Gloucester constituents who've signed the petition today. As a relatively new parent myself, I now know what it's like to really worry about a child. People say you don't quite know what it's like to be a parent until your child is born, and I kind of laughed that off and thought, of course you could know, but you don't truly. That moment when you meet your child for the first time and your world changes, you realise that you would literally walk through walls for your child. Thankfully, my child is only one. He doesn't have any social media channels yet that I'm aware of. And if that could continue for as long as possible, I would be really, really grateful. But I know that parents are increasingly worried about their children's use of social media, particularly across the country and also in my constituency of Gloucester. And according to the Children's Commissioner, 2/3 of parents are really concerned about the content their children can access online and the impact that it's having on their mental health. And these concerns are not only felt amongst parents but also children themselves. Research shows that nearly 3/4 of teenagers have encountered potential harms online, while 3 in 5 secondary school-aged children have been contacted online in ways that have made them feel uncomfortable. And as social media is becoming increasingly embedded in our children's lives, it's clear that urgent action is needed. And while the Online Safety Act was a long-awaited start to protecting children online, we must go further. I was pleased to hear my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State, say he was open-minded on introducing new legislation and would encourage him to consider introducing Jules law. Now, today my remarks don't particularly focus on online content, although my honourable friend, the member for Lowestoft, outlined some of the quite frankly dangerous and horrific online content that children and young people are exposed to. Members of this House don't need to be reminded of the horrific online content that is available. Myself, not long after being elected, found that pictures of myself and my baby had been posted online with a threatening message anonymously, just as part of an online spotted page. Now, members of this House develop a relatively thick skin in this job, but quite frankly, imagine that kind of impact when you were a teenager. And I think back to my teenage days, and whether I was mentally equipped to be able to deal with cases of bullying. And I'm just about young enough to remember when Facebook came in. I was about a teenager when Facebook started, and back then it was a much different place. And the, quite frankly, cesspit sometimes of online content that we're seeing nowadays, I don't think I would have had the mental capacity at those teenage years to be able to deal with that level of abuse. I will give way on that point.
I thank my honourable neighbour from Gloucester, and he makes an interesting point. Now, my school years are long behind me, but I can still remember, I mean, we look back at our youths with rose-tinted glasses sometimes, but being at school as a youth it can feel like being in a war zone. There's so much pressure. And if you are being bullied consistently, I can barely imagine what it must be like to try and escape that at home, and then to have this device in front of you with all of that material consistently coming in, but even at night. And I would invite my honourable friend to agree.
He's entirely correct that bullying in the days before social media was confined to the school gates, and when you got home, in most cases, sadly not all, but when you got home, that was a place of safety and a haven to be able to recover and steel yourself for the next day. And that has been removed by social media, and people are able to get you wherever you are. And I look back on my days as a teenager, growing up with social media as it was first coming out, Bebo, which I don't think exists anymore, MSN Messenger, and my parents had no oversight over what I was accessing, who I was talking to. Quite frankly, it was dangerous. And that's not to question my parents' parenting skills. They are of an age where they're still learning how to use Facebook in 2025. But we do need to do more to make sure that we are protecting teenagers at such a vulnerable age when they're learning about themselves and learning how to deal and build that mental resilience to be able to deal with some of the stuff that, as I said, some of the members of this House will experience on a regular basis. But while we may have another debate on online content, we all know the reason why we're here and speaking on this petition today. And it really concerns me that grieving parents aren't able to access information about the death of their children that may relate to the death of their children. We know that there's been a worrying rise in dangerous pranks, trends that are going around on social media, a worrying rise in people using social media to groom and to target young people, and that there's really dangerous information going viral. Information that, quite frankly, may have played a role in tragic and heartbreaking deaths up and down the country. Giving grieving parents the right to find answers for themselves must be within our power as a government. And I would encourage the Minister to do what we can to support parents and families in this absolutely heartbreaking position. And thank you very much.